I wanted to talk about a new video from Iain McGilchrist and Matias Desmet. It's called The Modern World, Totalitarianism and the Brain. So this is going to be more reflections on a few very important points, and also to show how Dante is the solution to so many of the issues that they are discussing. So just to start with something very, like, from the outset, you can read the comedy with Virgil as largely the left hemisphere and Beatrice as your soul as largely the right hemisphere, brain hemisphere. It's not, it doesn't map 100%, but uh, it gives a very, like, as a first step, it's very helpful to think like that. So during this talk, Matias Desmet suggests that the left hemisphere is your ego and the right hemisphere is your soul, which is very interesting and is very close to much of what Dante is also describing. What's interesting is how McGilchrist at first says that he agrees, but then he changes the topic slightly. So he says then, but coming back to the ego, I wonder if it's possible to make a distinction. I would certainly make this distinction. You may well be right about the soul, but the soul is such a difficult thing to bring into relation with neuronal structures. But certainly one could use Jung's distinction between the ego and the self. So the ego being the initial self, differentiating uh, an entity that strives to understanding itself as distinct from other people. So just watch what is happening, that McGilchrist is saying that, well, the ego and the soul is interesting, but let's look at the ego and the self. But those are in some sense both left hemispheric approaches to understanding your mind and yourself, your consciousness, your being. But we need the soul. So we had another video here about how Dante, Beatrice is also a metaphor for your soul. And this is incredibly important because this is what Dante is doing. He shows that going from left hemispheric dominance as the dark forest, in, you can read it like that as well, towards becoming unified and seeing the full reality. This whole process has sort of a climax at the end of book 2, when his soul is suddenly coming alive again. So this is like, it's such a crucial, indispensable point in this journey to get some sense of yourself and your spirit and your soul. You could say consciousness, but consciousness is kind of a scientific way of it's a safer term. The soul is the living part of you, which is also your living spirit. So this is also what Dante is describing, that you have to get in touch with that and connect with it and rebirth it through going up Mount Purgatory. So in short, the solution to so many of those issues and challenges they talk about in that video is that you have to go through purgatory. But what's important is that you have to, like, set 1 year, read, meditate, work on this, contemplate for 1 year. It's not some prepositions that, or some technical model that you can suddenly grasp and get and like, aha, now, okay, I understand it. This is the soul. It's a way of changing gradually, and this points to the biology of this. Your brain cells, like you know, the whole cell clump here has to change, and it takes time. So it's not like a light bulb moment. It's more like a long series of light bulb moments, and you can do that over a year. Like I did for myself, the Purgatory, like reading 5 tercets in the original Italian every morning for a year, and like hundreds of light bulb moments that gradually rewires your brain. That is what you have to do. This is the climbing of the mountain. So it's not like learning math or physics. It's different. It's a biological process in part. It's also like a spiritual process, but it needs work, and it goes slowly. You can maybe think of it as learning an instrument or learning a language. That could be closer to reaching where you want to go. So that's the main point I want to say about the soul, and how it's almost like McGilchrist defaults back into his left hemisphere, like again and again, even if his whole life work is about showing the limitations of the left hemisphere. But he's admitting in some sense that he is very much stuck in it, and he's trying to get out of it and trying to balance, but he struggles with the how. So he kept saying that like nature is a good source of right hemispheric stimulation, which is true, but intellectually, like thinking wise, spiritually, you have to go through a process. So again, on the side with Dante's Purgatory, so you can do. I made morning emails. You can go to dailypurgatory.com, and then you can sign up for morning emails for like 130 episodes, like about 4 months. Every morning you get these little tidbits that covers the first 12 cantos. That is the main starting motion, in a sense, in terms of starting to change your brain, warming up from the beach until you get to the gate and start the terraces, and then also including the first terrace, which is where rationality itself reassesses its connection to reality completely. Virgil does, and it ends with Virgil starting to looking up to the sun, and in a sense worshipping the sun as reordering reason below virtue and below the bigger mystery and the bigger picture. So just saying that as a way of helping, like if you as a viewer now, if you want to start, but it's hard to just read it, like to get some help in terms of how to interpret things and how to start changing how you see the world. And it really will change how you experience the world and how you will see reality differently, because the culture presses this view that reality is primarily the secular material, but then you also get more of the other dimension, and gradually you develop this overall idea of Dante with the chariot. You need two wheels together to understand reality. So you need the material and the spiritual and how they work together. Okay, so those are the main reflections. We also want to say one more thing, because towards the end, this is something you can learn with you if you study McGilchrist, that there is often an internal conflict in your mind. Your two brains will have arguments and disagree, and they will sometimes fight for being the one that speaks, even. So you can say contradictory things in a conversation. He's not doing that exactly, but he gets towards the end, about like 1 hour and 25 minutes in, he suddenly says this part about certainty and how the scientific approach has limitations. So he says, there is nothing in the universe that is finally certain. We are not wholly determined. This is a massive claim. And then it goes on. Of course, we may be partially determined by genetics and environment. We've always known that. But the really important thing to stress is not that. Is that we have responsibility to do what we do with it, and we have the creative capacity to do so. And to be told otherwise is evil. So here he's completely into spiritual territory and right hemispheric ideas of, for example, the free will, which secular materialist thinking usually dismisses. So this is the more right hemispheric and spiritual McGilchrist who starts summing up towards the end. And this is also very much what Dante would continually argue for during the whole comedy, which is a part of understanding your free will. Maybe we could add this. In the middle of Purgatory, there is an earthquake, which is in part this reaction from reality when a soul connects with itself, or one of the early steps. And it can be your own internal experience of broadening your consciousness and getting in connection with a different way of experiencing. Or you can say just your brain hemispheres. What happens around that point is that Virgil identifies choices. So I mean, this is a huge argument, but there is something that Dante says that a part of connecting with your soul is to actually identify where you are in yourself and your mind when you make decisions or actually make choices. So he describes in kind of hypermodern perception theory how our apprehensive faculties extract impressions from the external world, like around the surroundings, and is then presented within your mind as an image or something you can experience, apprehend, and then if you bend to it or not, that is the free will, meaning if you are attracted to it or not. And right after that, you get this scene of the burning, like the moon rises like a burning molten fire, which is then suddenly you have a connection because you have identified the point of free will. So maybe this is a thing for McGilchrist if he wants to explore more, like especially Dante and the soul, is like take that part with the free will that we have. We have the like we have the capacity to choose, and then we have the responsibility for it, which again is Dante's idea of inferno and paradiso, like the consequences of your voluntary way of exercising your free will. Okay, so we're going to stop this one here. We just wanted to elaborate and unpack more of these topics, and then again, just closing with this, that it's a great conversation. The one participant, the Matias Desmet person, he makes a very good argument for these two dimensions together, and then hopefully soon McGilchrist will make that final bridge, because then we can all start rebalancing the brains, and the more people who do that, the better it is for society, for the culture, and then we're going to get back to a more harmonious, more human-like society, world to live in, and also with much more aspirations and hope for the future as well. So with that, hope some of this was interesting, and hope you're having a great day, and then we'll be back with another episode soon.